There's all of these different books on habits that are great. But what is missing within each one of them is the concept of order. So when we think about the way that the world positions these is it's physical things first, have this diet, have this morning routine, have this breathwork experience, et cetera, et cetera. So all these things that are good, be in this community. And if some is good, then more must be better. And what happens is when we take a physical approach first, it then starts to change us mentally. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel overwhelmed with everything that's here. I guess I'm just not good enough. I'm not a consistent person. I'm not disciplined because I can't get these things. And then it imprisons our heart emotionally. So we feel like we're not good enough. We feel anxious. We feel depressed. We feel like this is unsustainable, which separates us spiritually from what we're actually supposed to get out of this health journey.
Welcome to Personalized by Vitamin Lab, the show where we dive deep into the world of personalization in healthcare. I'm your host, Dr. David Duizer. Please remember that the following discussion is for educational purposes only, and it's not intended to diagnose or treat any disease. Speak with your healthcare practitioner first before integrating anything that you learned today. Join us as we explore the remarkable stories, breakthroughs, and possibilities that come with the pursuit of personalized healthcare. Welcome back to Personalized. I'm your host, Dr. David Duizer. Thanks for joining us. What if the health crisis in our culture isn't just a medical problem? It's a spiritual one. Justin Roethlingshoefer has spent decades in elite performance, first coaching NHL athletes, then building a 7-figure health coaching company called Own It for executives and high performers. He's worked at the cutting edge of biometric data, recovery science, and longevity strategy. And then he looked up and saw the same burnout, the same fatigue, and the same disconnection from the body sitting in the pews. Pastors running on empty, believers praying for breakthrough while living without rhythm or rest. A church that was spiritually awake, but physically depleted. That recognition became Holy Health, a faith-based health movement built on a single conviction, that your body is sacred, stewardship is an act of worship, and that sickness and burnout are not God's design for his people. Justin believes scripture and science don't compete, they converge, and that when the body of Christ is truly well, the mission doesn't just survive, it overflows. Today we're exploring what it means to treat health as holy and what happens when a performance expert turns his tools towards revival. Please enjoy our episode with Justin Roethlingshoefer. Welcome back to Personalized. I'm your host, Dr. David Duizer, and I'm here again for the second time with Justin Roethlingshoefer, and I nailed it. Perfect pronunciation of your name, sir. Welcome back. How you doing?
It is so good to be here. And my gosh, if everybody pronounced it that way, I would have to redo my introduction for my speaking reel, because I have my speaking reel. I think that's one of the funniest things is my last name. If people look at it, it's 16 letters long. It's the alphabet. I always say I was the smartest kid in kindergarten and went downhill from there. But it's like all the mispronunciations of my name. So Justin Rowan Gardner and Ruthless Burger and then I finish it with Roethlingshoefer. And so you could literally just go and finish that for me.
You might as well just put me right at the end. Yeah, and we should do the same thing for me because people call me Duizer and Dozer and Duizer. So anyways, all good. Thanks for coming back on. I'm really excited to talk about this new book. I was going to say a new approach, but I don't think it's a new approach for you. I'd love for you to tell me about how the book came about, how this approach came about. I know that you've been practicing this way for years, but I'd love to hear about, what kind of led you to wanting to speak about your approach.
So I think here's the big thing is, like, last time I was on with you, we spoke a lot about Own It and what we're doing at Own It, this holistic, fully integrated approach, really looking at mind, body, spirit, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional health, and how a lot of the data that we have today, everything from heart rate variability to sleep quality, VO2 max, cellular deficiencies, DNA epigenetic testing, all these things are great, but they're only great when they become one, when they become this holistically integrated tool that we can then be able to establish a team, a mental performance coach, a health coach, a registered dietitian, functional doc, they really kind of go along the journey with you and disciple you along that journey. And that's really what we've been practicing for the last 5 years in Own It and what the program was built around. And if I go back even through my story, my relationship with God has always been very forefront and at the core to that. And as we started to really just serve people, it was amazing how a lot of the things that we found, as much as I started to dig into the data, the new technology, the new testing, all of the things that came around with this, the more that I studied, researched, and went down rabbit holes, the more God continued to speak to me and say, hey, I want you to stop searching for what the world's saying, and I want you to just get quiet with what I'm saying. And so for probably the last year and a half, 2 years, I haven't read a book outside of the Bible. And what I was able to identify and what I was able to see just so clearly was that what science has been trying to prove through different technologies, different studies, have been ancient truths and put in this scriptural foundation for years.
Right.
And so they don't compete with one another. Actually, they marry with one another. As much as we know about science is as true as what is living in the scriptures. And so being able to do that, and what Holy Health is really all about, is how do we take what we were doing at the own it level and now make it available for the church? How do we heal people within this space? And that's really where Holy Health is, I think, just this really unique intersection point of faith and physiology, science and scripture, guiding us on how to heal God's way, and really having this revelationary experience while reading this book, but then also going on a journey that we've built into this program and everything else that kind of lives there.
Love it. So cool. So cool. The way that you're describing it is kind of creating a distinction between seeking health and seeking alignment. Can you talk about that distinction a little bit, and why, what we all go for in the seeking health side might not be the way?
I love the way that you position that, because when we seek health, health becomes the idol. I know that might be resonating for a lot of people, and how you can identify an idol is this. You can replace this statement with any words, but when rest feels like a sin, whatever has taken its place becomes the idol. So whenever resting feels like a sin, continually needing to go work out has become the idol. Whenever resting is feeling like a sin, making your meal prepping for your food has become an idol. Whenever resting feels like a sin, and now your night routine has become the idol. There's so many idols that we have in the health space. It's the perfect HRV, it's the perfect sleep score, it's the perfect blood panel, it's the perfect morning routine, night routine, the perfect no anxiety days. Like all of these things that we're continually seeking for to have the perfect health, the level of perfection that we're seeking actually is just the exact word that you said, which is alignment, aligned with how we live. The world tells us to approach health from a physical habit standpoint. There's a lot of great habit books, Atomic Habits, Tiny Habits, Habits Compound. There's all of these different books on habits that are great. But what is missing within each one of them is the concept of order. So when we think about the way the world positions these, is it's physical things first, have this diet, have this morning routine, have this breathwork experience, et cetera, et cetera. So all these things that are good, be in this community, and if some is good, then more must be better. And what happens is when we take a physical approach first, it then starts to change us mentally. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel overwhelmed with everything that's here. I guess I'm just not good enough. I'm not a consistent person. I'm not disciplined because I can't get these things. And then it imprisons our heart emotionally. So we feel like we're not good enough. We feel anxious. We feel depressed. We feel just like this is unsustainable, which separates us spiritually from what we're actually supposed to get out of this health journey. But when we go and we align back with how we were created, and we know who we are, meaning who God called us to be, that then frees our heart, knowing that emotionally we can be free. We're exactly where we need to be. It then renews our mind, thus a new way of thinking, positivity, excitement, encouraging, all of the positive sides we try to aim to be. And then at that point, we start to understand which habits are important for us or we're called to be obedient to in this season of life. And so there's constant iteration. That's why I love the word that you said, which is alignment. Because when we align with the order in which we're supposed to experience life, health finds us as a byproduct, not something that we're searching for.
Vitamin Lab revolutionizes personalized supplements, empowering health practitioners to create tailored supplement formulations that address each patient's unique needs. Bring personalized health to your practice and choose from over 200 professional-grade ingredients to create vitamin formulas that improve patient adherence and result in tangible outcomes. All ingredients are sourced from the world's most trusted suppliers, and Vitamin Lab provides hands-on support to help you formulate and launch personalization to your patients. Say hello to a new era of personalized supplement solutions. Go to getvitaminlab.com/personalized to save $100 off your first formula.
I like that. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking about it on the kind of entrepreneurial side and on the business owner side and on this person who feels like, for me, it's like, yes, I'm doing that with health, but also with business and also with family and you just make so many mistakes that are not really mistakes, right? They're just you telling yourself you should be more, you should be better. And without that framework, like I've been studying, I'm not in your world at all. I don't have a religious background. I didn't grow up in a religious family and haven't had the adoption as an adult that I may have liked to. However,
it's never too late.
Exactly. I can see, and I've learned over the years about how having some principle, some framework to live by, some groundedness that comes from something outside of you, about how beneficial that can be to help you feel your best, right? Like seeking health, yeah, but seeking success, seeking all of the things that we feel like we need to seek. And then when you don't do the things, like, you start to feel like you're like lazy.
Yeah.
But you know that you're not, if you have some framework, like right now for me, it's like, just trying to get a little bit better every day and have, 1% improvements and those type of things. Having that to rely back on has been settling for me. With, I'm like, the Michael Jordan's trainer book, I'm push it, man. I'm all in on everything I do.
Yeah.
And it can be detrimental. It can be detrimental sometimes. I know you guys track HRV and, not to take us into objective metrics, but like people are really killing themselves right now, pushing it to the max. Is that what you're seeing out there too?
You're literally speaking my language because, and when you say I don't want to bring it back to objective metrics, I think it's important that we bring it back to objective metrics because we need the objective to align with the subjective. And so often what happens is we ignore one or we ignore the other based upon the story that we want to tell ourselves, when in actuality, the truth lives in an integration of both. We have to look at both. We have to understand both because science and faith, science and scripture, you can't just choose one or the other. They both align. They both tell a different story in the same way. And I think that's the cool part about this whole philosophy or revelatory thought process or framework, as you said, because even going back to what you were just mentioning about I've been driving and pushing and striving so hard. At what cost? For what? Where are you trying to get to? And what happens is God has put things into our life, disciplines. We're called to live a disciplined life. Discipline provides character. Character produces perseverance. Perseverance produces hope. And hope is what we actually are after. We want to feel hopeful for the future. We want to feel hopeful for how we're aging. We want to feel hopeful for our mission and our purpose on this earth. We want to feel hopeful for what our kids are going to do and stand on our shoulders as they go forwards. And this thing that we start with, which is disciplines, when the disciplines become the goal, it starts to cloud the journey because the disciplines were never the goal. The disciplines were always the path to the goal, which was to chisel away everything that's not actually the best version of you, not actually the thing that's helping you thrive. And the thing is that we know, again, coming back to truth, is that Jesus came so that we may have life abundantly, but the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And so there's so much manipulation in terms of the truth, so much manipulation in terms of what we have to do. And you see culture setting a lot of that. And culture sets it in the form of money, in the term of fame, in the term of success. And we sacrifice our health on the altar of success or fame or money. And this metric, heart rate variability, has become such a powerful tool because it's almost like your body's language of how it's communicating to you, how well you're adapting to stress and strain. How are you aligned mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally with your habits and behaviors that you're choosing daily to be able to take on and have capacity for where you're going? The thing that I love to say through this whole thing is, what does it look like to use your health as worship? What does it look like to actually use the thing that you've been given to carry the calling that's on your life to show that, no, I actually love this body I live in. I actually love this life I get to live, and I've designed it in such a way so that I will have capacity to carry it out for the long haul. Because capacity is simply the currency that you have to be able to use to carry the calling that's on your life, and that is your responsibility. That is your responsibility. It's my responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility, because the last thing any of us would want is we get to a point in our life where somebody needs our help. There's something we're called to do. We know in our soul we're called to do this. We want to create this. We want to build this. We want to do this. But my gosh, I just don't have the energy. I just don't have the mental fortitude. I just don't have the mental clarity anymore. I just don't have the strength or the stamina. And that is the thing that we have to protect. And when we realize that the temple is where the war is, and we're the temple, that becomes the revelatory realization.
I like it. I'm told that the book starts with the attacks on the temple.
Yeah.
I could frame it that way. I'm told that it starts with tactics that are used to destroy our health. Can you tell me about how you're framing this from a starting point? Like, what do you mean by that?
It's so good. So I'll take us back in this story. And so what I start with, actually, the book opens with a letter from the devil. And we know the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And the reason I started it this way was a little bit of my story is I was a fat kid that was teased, made fun of for so many years in my life. And I'll never forget, was a hockey player, was in the locker room. So when you're getting dressed and undressed, everyone's teasing you. When you're working out, everyone's teasing you. And I'll never forget, it was probably 4 years of this, nonstop, left out, not included, felt like an outsider, felt rejected in a lot of ways. I was sitting in the corner of a dressing room, taking the brunt of all the jokes, and I heard this voice in my head. And it was so distinct, and it said, I can make all of this go away. I can make all this go away. And at that moment, not recognizing the voice, not knowing what it was about, I said yes. I said yes, anything. And looking back on everything that came after that moment for the next 15 years, it was anorexia, it was depression, it was anxiety, it was liver failure, it was kidney failure, it was addiction, it was burnout, it was constant overwhelm, it was the constant striving, it was precancerous polyps and ulcers. It was only things that were killing me from the inside out.
Jeepers, man.
But it started with how I was thinking. It started with this agreement that I didn't know that I made. And thus the habits and behaviors in my life were fully aligned with somebody who was misaligned with who I wanted to be. And the outcomes in my life that I felt were out of my control were actually fully within my control. And as I started to go to school and do my undergraduate degrees and master's degrees and postgraduate research and started to see the truth in the science, it was only at that point I was able to draw the conclusion back to, oh my gosh, I made a deal with the devil. And I need to repent for that. And I need to heal from that. And literally it was I cannot tell you, it was almost like it was overnight from repenting and realizing the lies that I had believed for 20 plus years, that all of a sudden I saw clearly. All of a sudden I saw freedom. All of a sudden I found health and healing. All of a sudden the obsession over the foods that I was eating was gone. All of a sudden the obsession over my body image was gone. All of a sudden the anxiety that I would feel every single night and the panic attacks that would come on suddenly disappeared. and the precancerous polyps and the healing of the ulcers in my stomach happened over the course of 5 or 6 months. But again, the things that I struggled to do in the past, like putting down the alcohol and stopping staying up late all night and stop eating the processed foods, the things that you would consider addictions and struggles suddenly went away. And I start the book with that voice because I need everybody to understand what that voice is. And he starts with I call them the 7 Ds of destruction. The first D is always with a distraction. You always get distracted. There's this aim or this intention to start changing your habits, changing your behaviors, living a life that is more fully aligned with who you're called to be. Better night routine, better morning routine, better workout protocol, better nutrition, better hydration, better community, all these things. You have the intention, but as soon as you make that intention, suddenly there's a distraction in your life. Might be the kids, might be the family, might be the business, might be something that randomly pops up. Well, when you're distracted, you become disconnected from that order that I mentioned we need to be in. Faith and spiritual connection first, who God says you are. And when you're disconnected from that source, suddenly, emotionally, mentally, and physically, you become distorted. And so the distraction becomes a disconnection, and the disconnection becomes division. You start living 2 lives. There's a duplicity. Public you versus private you. The one that's thriving, quote unquote, versus the one that's struggling. Then the division ultimately comes back into discouragement. Man, why can't I figure this out? Why can't I be the dad and the business owner? Why can't I be the mom and the entrepreneur? Why can't I be the good spouse and the athlete? And this discouragement ultimately then becomes to a further level of depletion, because maybe I just have to stay up later. Maybe I just have to wake up earlier. Maybe I just have to try harder. Maybe I just have to start something new. Maybe I just have to add more to my plate. And then the further depletion leads to disqualification. It's like, man, maybe I wasn't supposed to do this. Maybe I wasn't supposed to be the father. Maybe I wasn't supposed to be the business owner. Maybe I'm supposed to shut this down. Maybe I wasn't supposed to be the public speaker, and I've got to just go and be the one that just talks to my small community. Maybe I wasn't supposed to get married, and maybe I heard God wrong. Maybe I'm doing this all and I just quit, which then leads to the destruction of your health holistically. The joy is gone. The passion is gone. The fire is gone. The joy, the freedom, everything disappears. And so it's not that he has to kill you outright, but it's rather he has you slowly drift. And as you slowly drift, you never actually have to be killed at the onset, but rather you just have to never truly live. And never truly living is simply living in this space of mediocrity, never being on fire, never stepping up to who you were actually supposed to be, never stepping into the potential that was there. And it all started with the health mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally aligned. And oftentimes when there's misalignment, that misalignment creates disorder internally, and that disorder internally shows up as disease, as some type of autoimmune issue, some type of gut issue, some type of anxiety, some type of weight gain, some type of addiction that we in our world have said is something. We've put a word on it, a label on it, when it's just misalignment. It's just a misaligned life, a misaligned action step, a misaligned habit step, a misaligned order that has slowly started to steal our health. And it all came from a design that we were unaware of to begin with.
You're speaking to me. You're speaking directly to me. I didn't go through it like you did. I didn't go through it in such a severe way. Mine was more like 2 years.
Sure.
And I didn't develop the health problems that you had, but I can see how that voice can take you away from living, from actually experiencing life and learning about life appropriately at the right pace. You know, for me, it was more like just compete, start to win every single thing you can win. And then when you don't win, because eventually that happens, right, then it's pretty dark. There's like dark times.
You're worthless. You're no good. You should quit. Yeah, that voice comes back.
And if you don't go through that, like I'm thinking about my kids, like as you're talking, right? Like how can I help them be connected? And I have a pretty big role in my community. Like I'm around a lot of people all the time and talking all day for a living. And I'd like to help people find that alignment, find that thing that allows them to still, like, there's still good things about, I'm sure that the voice in your head had you do some things that were good, right? You got in shape, you started, you got super fit, obviously, and you developed this incredible career to the detriment of some other things. With alignment, yes, you could have also accomplished these things. But how do we help people? Like, because when I was a kid, when people told me, like, you got to slow down, man, like, this is crazy, I would say, like, what do you mean? I'm like male athlete of the year. I'm the fittest person in the entire school. Like, I have top grades. Come on. But like making all these other mistakes, how do you help someone between the ages of sort of like 16 and 25 decide to find alignment?
I think it comes from showing the example, which is why I think our roles as fathers, our roles as husbands, just as men in general, is to become the person who is so obedient. I say, what is, like, somebody said to me the other day, what's your superpower? And I said, honestly, my superpower is being obsessively obedient.
Obsessively obedient.
Yeah, obsessively obedient. Whatever God says, I do. And I jump in with 2 feet. And I want to go back to a statement that you made, which is like, not everything turned out negative from that. And because you learned all of this and you were able to take your education and develop an amazing career, and now you're helping so many people. You took your pain and turned it into a purpose. You took your story and turned it into this newfound level of truth. And I would say I didn't do anything. God took what the enemy meant for harm and he turned it for good. And again, that's biblical, that's scriptural, that's the truth. That's the foundation that we get to live off of. Nothing bad in your life is wasted. I think that's what I want everybody to hear. So the disease you're going through, the debilitating issue you have, the birth defect, the addiction you're struggling with, none of these things are meant to kill you. They're meant to be obstacles to shape you into who you're supposed to become. And when we actually become that person, that's the story that we get to now go and relate to other people with. For me, I know my calling has always been to reach a large amount of people, which is why I think that I had the vast array of things that I've been through. I can relate to people with addiction. I can relate to people with obesity. I can relate to people with anorexia. I can relate to people with burnout. I can relate to people who have been told they're not going to see a certain age and they've got this debilitating diagnosis. And so the being able to relate back, but it requires you to actually see hope on the other side. And so when you talk about somebody between the ages of 16 and 25, I go back to my time. Like, this is why I said I believe it's our role to be the example for what does it look like to live a life that is thriving. And again, we can get down into the data side of how we need to be aware of our body and how we need to take ownership over it, from heart rate variability and sleep quality and VO2 max and cellular deficiencies, and understand how our body's functioning at the cellular level. Because when we know that, we can be empowered, equipped, and educated on what is purposeful for us and what is not. And I can go down that road, but I still remember as a young boy being around, and again, this is a part of my story, being around men, especially in the hockey world, the athletics world, and in the church world, and going, man, I don't want any of your lives. I don't want any of your lives. If you're spiritually rich, you're physically poor. If you're physically rich, you're familial and relationally poor. If you're relationally poor, you're financially poor. Like, I don't want any of those lives. I want to thrive in all areas. I want to have a deep, intimate marriage where you love to be with one another. You're best friends. I don't want to be arguing and bickering all the time. I want to have a fit and able body. I want to have a ready and equipped mind. I want to have emotionally regulated heart. I want to be able to go and do anything. I want to have financial freedom. Like, I want all these things in my life. And is it too much to ask to have everything integrated? And I never had a role model of what that looked like. And so where did I choose to go and put my focus was in athletics, where I saw professional athletes going and doing things that physically they were fit, financially they were stable, emotionally they had everybody gawking towards them. And so, my gosh, these must be the warriors we're supposed to embody. But little do you know, so many of them are spiritually broke, disconnected, discouraged, and slowly watching their health deteriorate mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. But I had to live in that world for a decade first, watching what the NHL guys went through from an addiction standpoint, from a divorce standpoint, from a fulfillment standpoint, from a feeling like a piece of meat and objectified standpoint. Like, there was just such an absence. And that was when I got my order right, when I got back to who God says I was. My gosh, you can have a thriving marriage, you can have a deep, intimate faith, and you can have a health that is vibrant. But you have to make sure that your order is aligned. And being that person now that gets to show others what that's like, being able to walk that road, teach them, educate them, how do you do this well? That's what lights me up. That's what has me waking up every morning on fire to go and speak to the audience, or get on the podcast, or go and write the email, or go and serve the team, or serve the clients. That's what really lights me up, because I've seen too much. I've seen too many transformations. I've seen too much good news not to believe that it's possible.
Yeah, for sure. It's exciting. So how do we do it? I know that you talk about the rhythms and the habits and the differences. Can you explain to me your approach here? So I'm not familiar with your order of things, and I'd love to learn about how you differentiate habits versus rhythms.
So order is all about timing, and those are ultimately rhythms. So rhythms, order, all about timing. What comes first? How do we order things? Where habits are actions. And what happens is, so often we try to put new habits into disordered rhythms. And so a lot of us feel like, you know what, I'm just going to wake up earlier to go to the gym, but your evenings are all out of order. The rhythm is not there. You're up late. There's chaos at night trying to get the kids to bed. There's no boundaries. And so you're going to bed exhausted and waking up even further exhausted, which is why the snooze button happens, which is why you continue to feel stressed, which is why HRV continues to drop, which is why you continue to have anxiety, which is why you continue to grab that coffee at 6 a.m., 8 a.m., 10 a.m., and 2 in the afternoon, which is why then you have a hard time sleeping at night again, and which is why you then go and have the glass of wine to try to wind yourself down so you can kind of fall into sleep. And it just starts to stack these habits that steal your health long term. We can start to see how these creep up. I could sit here and give all the data of, you know what? Caffeine starts to have a negative effect on how it binds to adenosine at night. Adenosine is the cofactor that allows melatonin in to get a good night's sleep, so which is why caffeine is a hindrance to good night's sleep. So I could talk about how alcohol does the same type of thing, but the issue with alcohol comes back into toxicity buildup in the body and how negative that is on long-term health. We could talk about all of that, but we know it. We've heard it on countless podcasts. We've read it. We've gone through it. We know how important exercise is. We know how important good nutrition is. We know how important hydration is. We know how important training and working out is. We know how important breath work and rest and recovery is. We know this. But why don't we do it? Because we still are trying to fit new habits in disordered rhythms. And so when we think about rhythms, we have to break it down. And again, I go back scriptural to this, the way in which God created the world. Genesis chapter 1. If you literally just studied Genesis chapter 1 and went through the entire creation of the world, the order in which it was created, what's the first thing that happened? Well, you come back, he goes, God created light. Let there be light. Well, what governs our entire recovery system? The circadian rhythm. It garners whether we have a cortisol production or whether we have a melatonin production. It governs whether the kidneys and liver are funneling and functioning as filters or whether they're acting as recovery mechanisms. These things are important. So when we think about circadian rhythm, sleep quality becomes the first rhythm that we have to reorient with. Well, what becomes more important, the morning routine or the night routine? It says scripturally that evening came, morning came, that was the first day. And then it says on day 4 that God created the sun, the moon, and the stars to orient sacred rhythms, sacred seasons, sacred moments, sacred times. So evening came before morning, and that was the first day. Evening came, morning came, first day. Evening is a sacred time. It's as a protected time. And so what does it look like to protect our evenings, to allow us to wind down so that we can have the best night's sleep, so we can wake up refreshed in the morning, ready to go pour out? And so that becomes a rhythm that we have to orient. I have this 3-2-1 rule. 3 hours before bed, no food. 2 hours before bed, no work. 1 hour before bed, no blue light. It's a sacred rhythm that builds habits into it, so it's protected, to allow our body to align with how we were created, so we can find healing naturally and give us the outcomes we desire. Energy, deep sleeps, mental clarity, vibrant health, energy to come from overflow from when we're coming home with the kids in the evening and the afternoon, and being able to pour out and be creative throughout the day. So that is just like a simple example of what that daily component looks like. The second one is the rhythm of Sabbath. We know that we're called to take one day off a week. The seventh day of creation, God took the entire day off to look back at what he had created. Like, could you imagine humans were created on day 6? The first day that we're looking at, God that created everything is just chilling, just hanging out. And I don't know many people who take one complete day off every single week. Like, no texting, no emailing, no scheduling, no trying to figure things out, no creative work, no overflow work, nothing. But I will tell you, by changing that one thing in my life, anxiety's gone down, sleep quality's gone up, family quality time's gone up, the health mentally and emotionally that I have experienced has gone up, my creative abilities and my best business acumen have and ideas and strategy have come at the end of those days off. It's just popped into my mind. The thing that I was struggling with most came from there. And so we start to think about these things where that becomes, again, a rhythm that needs to be there, a day every week. It can change. Sometimes I travel Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so Monday is my Sabbath. Sometimes I'm working all week and Sunday's my Sabbath. But there's this intention to how we're operating, this intention behind rhythm, so it can start to fall into place as to what we were actually called to do. Then again, I think another one that's just so telling is we talk about like this habit of fasting. People think about, okay, well, how do I fast well? Well, intermittent fasting got this huge craze, right? Of like, hey, let's put a 14-10 or a 16-8 window, and they're not eating until 2 or 3 in the afternoon, but then eating right up until 10 o'clock at night and disrupting their evening rhythm. Well, if we stopped eating 3 hours before bed and we start eating 3 hours after we wake, we've automatically created an intermittent fasting window based on circadian rhythm. And then secondarily, we can actually do a 24-hour fast that stands onto and aligns with our Sabbath day. So, hey, when Sabbath starts in the evening on Saturday night, we're going to fast right through Sunday night's dinner, when we're now going to enjoy and eat with other people around us. And so, again, that becomes this rhythm that we apply and this intention in which we live with. The last one I'll tell you, well, there's 2 more that I think I'll come without overwhelming, but you look again at the creation in Genesis. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6. God created everything, the sun, the moon, the stars, the land, the animals, the fish, the vegetation, all the things that we needed in order to be created, and we were the last things that were made. Well, so many of us forget the power of our environment. The environment of our home, the environment of our room, the environment of our cars, the environment of our backyards, the environment of our bedrooms. We eat in our bedroom. We watch TV in our bedroom. Well, bedroom should be for 2 things: sex and sleeping. And then we think about our office. You've got food in your office. You've got all the junk that's you don't know what to do with thrown in the office. That doesn't set anybody up for creativity. That doesn't set anybody up for lightness. So how do we actually create an environment where we're going towards that area? We've got maybe we threw a Peloton and a set of dumbbells in the spare bedroom that is basically a dungeon. It's not conducive for this type of thing. And we wonder why it just ends up as like this clothing container. And so how do we shape our environments based around what we need in order to thrive? And then lastly, you start to go down into the concept of breath. Is God breathed into your nostrils. He spoke into you as to who you were. But I think, again, something that we forget is he breathed into the nostrils. He didn't breathe into our mouth. He breathed into the nostrils. So how do we breathe? We're chronic mouth breathers that are having issues with anxiety and over breathing. So what does it look like to come back to conscious inhale, exhale? In through the nose, out through the nose, rhythmically coming back throughout the day to intentionally breathe. There's nobody in this world where you suddenly go and you inhale through the nose for 5, exhale through the nose for 10. You do that for 2 to 3 rounds, that you don't feel anxiety drop. You don't feel presence come back. You don't feel heart rate drop. You don't feel creativity rise. You don't feel all the chaos that's around you suddenly become still. Like that just does it. Nobody would ever say that that doesn't happen. And so you come back to the rhythms that we're called to, and you start to intentionally build them. The habits, as a consequence, fill their place so that you can thrive long term.
This is going to resonate with a lot of people. This is going to be awesome. People are going to love this so much because, you learn about so much online, right? Like so many cool things we could be trying now. Like our phone is literally off the hook with people doing their YouTube research, right? I trained up on this. I trained up on that. I got to try this thing or that thing. And, many people are not setting themselves up for success by creating an environment that, promotes these healthy rhythms that you've established here. It sounds like you're going to be doing, or you're doing already, I'm not 100% sure, 40-day challenge that's included with the book or that is some part of this program. Can you tell me about how the 40-day Holy Health Challenge is going to be applied and what it will look like for people?
Yeah, we wanted to give somebody a free, everyone's got a program out there. Everyone's got something that's life-changing. And so we took it out of the concept of 75 Hard, where 75 Hard was free. You could go and do it wherever you were. And what we did within the 40-day Holy Health Challenge was really look at these rhythms and to how do we build them in. So it was hey, you're going to start every morning with prayer, meditation. And it's this concept of you're going to seek God before technology. So you're going to get this done first things first. It could be 5 minutes. It could be 5 seconds. But that's the first thing you're going to be the first thing you're going to do. You're going to get 10,000 steps a day. You're going to have half your body weight in ounces of water. You're going to choose one Sabbath day and abide by it every single week. You're going to finish your day with breath work, that kind of breathing sequence that I just spoke about. You're going to have 30 minutes of intentional exercise every single day, and you're going to eat single ingredient foods. It's that simple. So single ingredient foods, apple, pear, banana, chicken, egg, that type of thing. And for 40 days, just follow this and build this rhythm in an integrated way. And the last thing I missed, but 3-2-1 rule at night, 3 hours before bed, no food, 2 hours before bed, no work, 1 hour before bed, no blue light. Those are the 8 things you're going to go and you're going to implement over 40 days and watch your life change. But the thing about this is a lot of people know that commitment lasts longer in community. And so this is where Holy Health has come together to be this discipleship program where there's literal video lessons to take you through everything I'm talking to you about, but then also an app to help build this for you. So it structures it and builds it all with you so that you have all these rhythms built, all these opportunities built. There's a workbook that goes along with it so you can help to do a lot of the deep inner work of who God says you are and what's my identity, what am I tied towards, what's the order that I've been operating within, where's my priorities lying currently, where do I need to have some changes, and then allows you to really work through this. And so that's a 3-month journey that you can find at holyhealth.org. And again, it's great in any type of business setting. It's great in any type of church setting, small group setting. It's great in any family setting, a lot of families doing it together. And so that's been, I think, the coolest part, watching this unfold. And depending on when this goes live, we've got a Holy Health virtual summit, basically everything that we've just been talking about fully laid out over the course of 3 days from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time. And you can register at holyhealth.org as well. Find everything that you need to register that. That's completely free. And we just literally have found truth in this health space that can be so confusing, so convoluting. And there's a revelation that happens within people's minds, bodies, and spirits when alignment happens. And we just want to share it. We just feel like we're called to share this message and to show people a new way of living, a new way of doing things without being another biohack, without being another thing they have to add in, without being another supplement stack they have to focus on, and without making it something that's obsessive that you have to do. And if you can't do it, there's something wrong with you. If you can't do it, health isn't for you. It's the lie from the enemy to keep us stuck and struggling in this space that we're in. Because really, when we peel back the scales from our eyes and we see the truth, there is no limit on what we're able to accomplish. And that's really what we're wanting to show for everybody.
That's going to be super fun. It's going to be really, really fun. People are going to love it. People will be transformed for sure. You know, we've got a ton of practitioners who watch the show, from naturopathic doctors, medical doctors, people who are in integrative medicine, all sorts of ways, chiropractors and physiotherapists, for example. And I think the biggest challenge for us, for many of us, is really helping people find some connection, whether it be spiritual connection or some religious connection. And so the first point you made about the challenge, about what to do within the first few minutes of the morning, whether it's 5 seconds or 5 minutes, this is the thing I think as a practitioner, it's very difficult, I find, to counsel people on. You know, I've taken, times in my career where I've been very excited about mindfulness meditations and times where I've tried to help people just connect with the spirituality that they grew up with, for example. You know, how do you think we should be, or maybe a better question is, what do the mornings look like for you?
Yeah.
And for people who will be joining the program, are the mornings structured or is it more open? What is it like?
So I love this question because structure creates freedom, but when you become, legalistic about things, it eliminates that freedom. And so the way that we start each morning is, again, connection through breath. There's power in the breath. When I say that God breathed life through our nostrils, breath is literally spirit translated in 20 different languages. The ruach, the spirit, the breath. It's something that, again, it connects you. It takes you from disconnection to connection. So when we talk about prayer, meditation, breath work, these are all what we start the day with. There's a moment of intention to go back and intentionally breathe. And when you breathe, what happens is you start to get connected on a new level. And we take you through a certain type of breath work. 2 breaths in through the nose, 1 long, hard, audible breath out. And we take you through 20 of these. It's like a hypoxic breath work, a cyclic sigh, if you will, something that puts you into gives a physiological response that makes you more, it originally starts you at more sympathetic, so more heightened, but then gives you an overarching and abundant parasympathetic response, and allows you to connect on a level that a lot of people say they have the most spiritual experiences at this moment, because it actually takes you back to the very raw component of what we were asked to do, which is simply connect with what we're supposed to hear. People start to say, man, I felt this, I saw something. And I guide, through the breath work, we guide people through some visualizations and ask them questions. And when you ask questions, it's amazing how suddenly you get the responses. It's like you're laying there, when's the last time God was proud of you? And all of a sudden, something comes to your mind, something comes to your heart. Why was that moment so important? You get an answer. Suddenly you start to get a lot more clarity as to like who you are. Suddenly you get to get a lot more clarity about what matters most to you. Suddenly you get a lot more clarity about what to do next. Suddenly you get a lot more clarity about your value as a human being, your value as a person. Suddenly you get a lot more clarity on your family connections and the struggles you've been having intermaritally and what you need to do in order to grow as a human being, as a man, as a wife, as a spouse, so that you can, again, act on that and live more in alignment with who you're called to be. And so when I say this, every morning starts with breath, because the breath connects and the breath heals. And you cannot build a life you love from an identity that you hate. And a lot of people are stuck in this identity that they're confused within, or ultimately that they've mislearned over the course of time because they've been distracted, disconnected, divided, discouraged, and ultimately depleted over the course of time, disqualified, and thus walking in a life that's slowly destroying them. And that's the pattern of the habit of how it all comes to be, but it all comes back. So if we can eliminate distraction, the first thing we eliminate is by reconnecting. And when we reconnect with the breath, that's how we start. It allows us to reshape how we think. If we reshape how we think, we ultimately can change how we live.
Love it. I'm starting tomorrow.
There we go. I love it. Come on.
I'm in. Can you give our audience one key takeaway, a single principle from the book? Like, tell me what you think, you really want to leave people with as they decide to embark on this journey or not, about your book, your principles, just one key thing.
I think here's the heart of it. Here's the promise is we've been told life is supposed to be one way. We've been given a diagnosis. And if you've tried everything, but you're still struggling, my beg and my ask and my prayer is that you would try this one last thing. That you would try holy health and try to do it God's way. You've tried it medicine's way. You've tried it the wellness way. You've tried it the world's way. You've tried everything, but why don't we try it God's way? Why don't we give it one more shot? Because what I promise you is that we're going to take you on a journey that leads you back to the promise which was originated, which is life and life abundantly. That's the promise. And that promise is fulfilled upon over and over and over and over again. But the ask is that we align with how we were created. We align with how we were designed so that we can actually see the promise fulfilled. And so no matter what you're going through, autoimmune disorder, anxiety, depression, just this empty feeling internally, inability to sleep, bloating, gut issues, some type of terminal illness, my only ask is that you would just give this a go, that you would walk in, eyes open, hearts open, so that you can be shaped, molded, and developed into the person that you were designed to be. And when you do that, the promise is always life and life abundantly, because you were created to heal, designed to thrive, but we have to live in alignment with that design.
Love it. Way to cap us off, sir, with hope.
That's right. I always say from the front of the stage, hundreds of times a year, the biggest thing that I say is I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm not an inspirational speaker. I'm a hope dealer. And if I can leave you with one thing, is that you're going to leave here hopeful. You're going to leave here knowing that there's something better. You're going to leave here knowing that there's something greater beyond what you've actually capped yourself to be able to know and understand. And what I can say is that through all of my education, through everything I've seen, from dissecting hundreds of bodies and looking at hundreds of cells under microscopes and writing countless papers and being able to now do this at the practitioner level, at the elite athletics level, your body is the greatest miracle that exists. And if we can understand that, if we can see it at the degree in which it is, there is nothing that would ever happen to you. There is nothing that you would go through that you would think you were ever broken. Because it's not a mental health issue. It's not an emotional health issue. It's not a physical health issue. It's not a spiritual health issue. It is a holistic health issue. And when we see this as one, it is all about getting your body back aligned to what your body was created to do, which is heal, which is thrive, and which is live life abundantly.
Love it. Where can people learn about it?
Very simple. holyhealth.org is where they can go and find everything we just spoke about from a program standpoint. You can go get started. If it's something you want to bring to your family, something you want to bring to your small group, something you want to bring to your practice, we're fully set up and integrated with all of those components, everything from the workbook to the app to the book itself, and the whole journey and experience that culminates together. holyhealth.org is where you can find that. If you're like, hey, I just want to start with the book, I just want to read more, I want you to take me on this journey, you can go to holyhealthbook.com, and there's a whole bunch of bonuses that exist there, a whole bunch of things you can kind of gain in on. But holyhealth.org for Holy Health Academy in the program. Just want to start with the book, holyhealthbook.com.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Justin. I really appreciate your time. It was so great to speak with you again. And I think that, our practitioners watching are going to get a ton out of this, and general public watching, of course, they're going to want to sign up. It's so exciting, the program that you're launching. So thanks so much for coming on, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
So good. I appreciate you.
Talk soon, sir.
Thanks for joining us for today's discussion. What about today's podcast resonated with you? Be sure to tag at Dr. David Duizer and at Get Vitamin Lab. If you're learning from and enjoying this podcast, please let us know by subscribing to our YouTube channel and follow the show on Spotify and Apple. And don't forget to leave us a review. It's the best way to support our podcast, and it helps others find us. To learn more or book a demo to explore what personalization could do for your practice, please go to www.getvitaminlab.com/personalized.